And our first speaker is a senior, Smith Sopp, and he offers a unique perspective on the STEM major through his experiences as the executive director of Hack PSU, which is a 24-hour collaborative tech event, and it's the biggest tech event at Penn State. All right, let's hear it for Smith.
All right, so first of all, I'm so excited to talk right now because this is something I care a lot about, and it's not often that you get these platforms where you can kind of talk about these things. So I'm going to talk about education in STEM here at Penn State because the things that I've been involved with here have given me this kind of unique perspective to think about these things, but also examine both its flaws and its strengths. So I want to start off just a little bit about me. Like you said, I'm a senior here at Penn State studying computer engineering. Okay, so once again, my name's Smith. I'm here to talk about STEM and education. I'm a senior here at Penn State studying computer engineering, director of Hack PSU, and kind of through these experiences, I've had a lot of chance to look at education and explore like my passions for leadership and STEM. So the first thing that I want to talk about is this study I read not too long ago that came out from McGraw-Hill. And what they did is they surveyed something like 4,000 students and asked them, how prepared do you really feel to start an education in STEM? And what they found is that only 1 in 5 students said that they felt very prepared, and that 1 in 3 felt only a little to not at all prepared, with the rest lying somewhere in between. And you know, sometimes I feel like numbers can kind of get lost on us, and we don't really know what that means. So I'd like to bring up this image. This is of Thomas. And if we imagine that this lecture hall is full, with all 3 sections filled entirely, if that statistic is true, the entire middle section is filled with students that are not prepared to work. And that's terrifying. That's a lot of students. And you know, it's not just the students that feel this way. The AACU did this survey of employers where they asked students and then they asked employers how they feel on 17 critical categories. These are things like oral communication. These are things like critical thinking. These are things like how well you can write and work in teams. And they asked them how well they thought they were prepared. And what they found here in this graphic is that the students were in the light blue for how good they felt about it. So as you can see, around the board, students felt fairly prepared, but the dark blue is employers. And that shows how they felt about the same things. So not only do we not feel prepared, but we're actually even less prepared than we thought. And that's a terrifying thing to think about. And I think this is especially important given Zach and Mark's talk, where they're talking about things like education and the cost that we're throwing into it. And I began to think when I was forming this talk, like, why is it that we come to university? And I think it really does kind of come down to about 3 different things. You come to get an education, you come to explore new topics, and you come to get a job. And you know, things have changed a lot recently. Back in the day, you came to college because you were looking to get a liberal arts education. You wanted this broad view of things, and you weren't coming to get a job. You were coming to learn about a bunch of different things, and at the end, you might have an idea about where you want to niche into. Right? But nowadays we have career fairs. So much of this is built into this idea that after college, you're going to be prepared to work. And you know what? Reasonably, in a perfect world, all 3 of these things, education, employment, and exploration, would be equally significant and important. But realistically, employment's one of the biggest factors right now. UCLA did this study where they asked freshmen at their university what were the primary reasons that they were attending university. And what they found is that 87.9 listed getting a job as very important. Now, it's worth saying as a caveat that 70% also said that getting this general education was very important, but the fact stands that 90% of these freshmen incoming to university are coming because they want to get a job, and they think that this degree is going to help them get that job. So it's worth saying, and the point comes down to that a primary reason that we're attending to go to university is to prepare and get a job. So the big question comes, if we are coming for employment, why is it that 1/3 of students, why is it that a full third of a lecture hall is not prepared to work? And why is it that we are paying $190,000 over our 4 years here, and this is a conservative estimate, to get a degree that's not going to help fulfill one of the primary reasons that we're attending? And I don't know that I have the exact reason, but in my position, in my exploration here at Penn State, I think I've come across a couple things that might explain why we've reached this point and what we may be able to change. So I want to talk really quick about boot camps. What boot camps are is this kind of alternative education for STEM, where instead of spending these 4 years at university, you spend 12 at this camp that will teach you highly precise technical skills on popular and current technologies. There is, on average, a 75% employment rate in the first 120 days after leaving, and a 69 grand exit salary to be expected when you're done. When you look at this side by side with a Penn State degree, you'll notice that not only are you more likely to get employed if you do one of these boot camps, but you're spending significantly less money and much less of a time investment. And the salary is comparable. So this means that you are spending a disproportionate amount of time and monetary commitment to get similar results. And what this also tells me is that there is a demand and a value in high impact learning that is short and focuses on current technologies. Now, what this doesn't mean is that higher education is not valuable or less valuable. All it means is that I think that we need to reevaluate how we're teaching our students. Because people here still get jobs. We still have these great salaries. But there is other avenues that have shown that there may be more effective ways that we can achieve that same result for less. So another thing that I want to talk about that I feel is really important for me to mention is Hack PSU. It's this 24-hour event that I run here at Penn State, and it's kind of been my baby while I've been here. We get about 700 students that show up from over 40 universities representing 46 different majors. And what it is this chance to build and to learn and to create and network with others, and sometimes even get a job. And one of my favorite things that I can do with this event is I can ask the students who come, I can ask them through a survey if they felt like they learned something new. So every single year we send out this survey, and one of the questions that's on it is, do you feel that you learned something here that you could not learn in the classroom? And consistently, we get about 73% of the respondents saying that they learned things at the event that they could not get from the university. Now, why is this important? I think it's important because we have about 600, of those 700 students that come, we have 600 that are from Penn State. And when I looked at the numbers, and I made a number of calls to make sure that these numbers were accurate, that represents about 47% of the computer science, computer engineering, and IST student bodies. That means 1 out of every 2 students in those majors has attended the event. They are willing to spend a weekend, they're willing to spend 24 hours to come out and learn about these things and network and to get employed. And it's not just the students that find value in this event, it's the employers. We have 18 sponsors. We have people like Google, we have people like Microsoft coming, Capital One, because they see value in events like these. And what is that value? The value is the difference between doing a project in class and coming out for a weekend and working on real and important projects. It's about showing that you can work in teams, not because you did a capstone project, but because you spent a weekend working on building a product, start to finish, with a team. These are the things that employers find valuable. And they're not exclusive to these events. These kind of things can be integrated into the university to make us not only more employable, but better overall members of these fields that we're working in. So I thought this was fun. I went over to the career fair the other day that was happening in the business building, and I took this view that I normally take when I'm at Hack PSU and we have all these students laid out, and that's this one here to the right. And these are students interacting with employers. And we have the same image of the same exact thing happening, but for a Penn State career fair. And the only reason I'm showing this image is to show you that employers really, really enjoy the students that come here. The reason this is so crowded is because of the value that's there. And what this tells me, and what it should hopefully tell you, is that employers really, really like students working on relevant and challenging projects. They really like students that have skill and experience in current technologies, and they like students that can work well in teams. And these are all things that you get through events like Hack PSU and through things like boot camps. So what I think I'm really trying to push here is that while we have this current system in place, it has flaws. There's a reason that 58% of us are getting employed versus the 77%, and there's a reason that monetary salary that we're getting is about the same. And it's worth looking at these changes, and it's worth looking at these differences and thinking how we can change the current system to make us more employable. Because what I really care about is us as students entering university and leaving with what we thought we were going to come out with, and which for a lot of us is this degree. And I think it's worth mentioning, and this is something I don't think I said in the beginning, is that this was all very STEM focused. But unfortunately, those statistics I mentioned, that 1 in 3 students who don't feel prepared, just gets worse when you look at other majors. For humanities, it's about 1 in 2. So while this may have been specific to STEM, the problem affects all of us. And it's something to think about. Thank you.